Hi, welcome to Parents League Presents. I'm Gina Mallon, Executive Director of the Parents League of New York, and we're so excited to have Rachel Henes here with us today from Hallways. Hallways is an organization that's been working with New York City independent schools for over 30 years, offering school-based social, emotional wellness, and prevention education. And Rachel is its director, and she brings 15 years of experience developing and implementing prevention programs at the local, national, and international levels. And they have just published this book, From the Inside Out, the Hallways Handbook for Raising Emotionally Healthy Adolescents. So welcome, thank you so much for coming. And can you tell us a little bit more about Hallways?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me here, Gina. So Hallways is a program that's part of the Freedom Institute, which some folks may have heard of. They've been around in New York City for quite some time. We've been around for about 30 years as a school-based prevention program. And over those years, we've evolved from a drug and alcohol prevention program to a social emotional health promotion program, because we know that the research shows us that the more that we promote kind of basic core skills for young people's health, the more we prevent a host of high-risk behaviors, including but not limited to substance use. So Hallways is in the schools. We work with about 30 schools a year, and we do parent programming, we do faculty trainings, and we do student workshops. So we're in the classroom with students, we're in the schools talking with parents, and we have the honor of hearing about all of the things that folks are struggling with and the things that are also really going well. So we're very much based in the community of the independent schools.
Great. And now you're authors and publishers. So
yes.
Why did you write this book?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the book?
Sure. So this book is a labor of love, as I think many books are. It's been in the works for quite some time, and it really came from a combination both of what we were seeing at Hallways coming out and emerging from research around looking at affluent culture, looking at high achieving school culture and the impact that that was having on young people. And as that research has been coming out, we've been doing our own work in schools, our own assessments in schools, looking at things like perfectionism and coping skills and stress levels. And we were finding that these bodies of research really mirrored each other. And what we know actually from the research is that kids attending these high achieving schools are about 2 to 3 times more likely to be dealing with stress and anxiety and mental health issues and substance use issues. So we have a real actual crisis in the community. We have alarmingly high rates of these concerning issues, and we see that show up day in and day out in our work, but we don't really talk about it very much. So we wanted to really write a book that combines all of the latest research really in an accessible way, and then tips for parents of what they can do. We know parents are anxious, we know that they're in a culture that's anxious, and so this is really designed to be a kind of guide that they can carry with them and a grounding resource for them as they work to raise their kids.
And this is for educators too.
Yes. It's for parents and educators. So, the book is divided into a few different sections, and we give tips for parents and for educators. We know that the more parents and educators are on the same page around the needs of young people, what effective prevention looks like, the better that we all will do. And when we're anxious, it can be even easier to kind of fall back on old but maybe not so helpful techniques. And we see that happening a lot, particularly now with anxiety around vaping, different, whatever the kind of moment is. We want to be responsive to that and make sure that both parents and educators have a resource to stay grounded as they go about their day-to-day.
So Rachel, what do parents need to know about raising healthy kids? In a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell. Easy question. I got the answer for you. Well, there's a lot out there, right? And there's a lot in the book. It's a dense book. Our, I think, larger goal would be that the information information in the book is really a way to get back to the basics. We want to kind of reconnect with the things that we know are really helpful for our kids, like consistent boundaries and consequences, warm, supportive, nurturing relationships, kids getting the message over and over again that what's important about them is who they are, not what they do. Letting kids make mistakes and fail, not just letting them, but celebrating that. Mistakes are a way to learn. Not getting it right is great, because that's how we learn new things. So our real message to parents here, and what is a research-based message that we want to share, is to ideally be able to press pause, really reconnect with our values. What do we want for our kids? Looking at the pressures that we have outside of us around this kind of narrow definition of success that we are experiencing in our culture, that tells us that what we have to do is ask about the homework, ask about the grades, make sure they're the best. And how often are we really asking about their coping skills? How often are we checking in with them about acts of kindness that they did that day? If they're clear on the boundaries and expectations of our homes. These are the things we want to kind of take a pause, reconnect to, because that's what sustains our kids long term, not the college that they get into. And so what we really think parents can do is kind of take a deep breath, reconnect with their values, reconnect with themselves as being able to be the parents that their kids need, and coming from that place as we go about our day-to-day. It's a great message.
How can educators use this handbook?
Yeah. So we know that the more parents and educators can work together, the better it is for our kids. And we also have the privilege of working with many school leaders in the independent school world, and talking with them about different strategies that we can use, different ways that they can help promote growth mindset in their schools. So educators can really use this book to ground them as well in what the research shows, to do PDs with their staff. We talk a lot about, in terms of educators in schools, there's a lot of cultural competency work. That cultural competency work often is not around high-achieving school cultures. And we need to be culturally competent within this culture too, because there are very specific risks that exist within that culture that lead to those high outcomes that I shared earlier. In fact, young people from high-achieving backgrounds were just added to an at-risk group, a list of at-risk kids in a recent study that was done with the National Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Sciences. So they're considered an at-risk group, and we need to be educated about what that means and how that shows up in our schools. So we really hope that educators can use this, school leaders, counselors, guidance counselors, as a way to start conversations with each other about how teaching, how counseling, how all of this needs to be modified or thought of through this cultural context and through this lens. Without that, we miss really key things. So we are here to support educators with that. If educators are interested in our work, they can go to our website. We have lots and lots of work we do with schools all the time to do professional development, but at the very least, this book has a lot of that information that they need.
So yeah, what can parents do right now? Is it too late? If you have a teenager, is it too early? It's a 2-year-old.
No, the amazing thing about social emotional health is you can start it from birth, practicing, doing different practices and helping our kids kind of beef up their life skills, and you can do it for the rest of their lives. And we should be. That's our role as parents, right? So what we can start doing right now is immediately kind of thinking about doing a bit of an inventory. Like, what are we saying to our kids day in and day out? What are the messages that they are getting? Because there's messages that are going to promote protective factors, and there's messages that are going to increase risk factors. So we want to look at, what are the things that they are learning from us, both that we're modeling and we're saying. And we want to really try to steer those things towards foundational kind of, skill building. So are we talking about ways that we cope with stress? Are we talking about that it's okay to make mistakes? Those kinds of things are what we can immediately, starting at this moment, be able to go back and just start to do inventory again. And I want to mention that we don't want this to be yet another thing for parents to beat themselves up about. And I'm not doing the non-perfectionism thing perfectly enough, right? That's not the message here. it's really about, taking a deep breath. We're not perfect, but really getting more in touch with kind of our humanity as parents, that this system that we're in, that the research looks at, this achievement culture, this high achievement culture, is not so concerned with our kids' long-term happiness. It's really about kind of producing these achieving kids. So we have lots of things we can do every day. We don't have to do it perfectly. Our kids just need to know that what we care about is who they are, how they treat people, how they show up in the world, and not the grades that they get or the part that they get in the play, that's not what matters.
Well, what I love about this book is it's very practical, easy to read, and if parents are interested, they can buy this book on your website at hallways.org and learn more about Hallways, learn more about the book, and if you'd like to learn more about the Parents League and watch more of our videos, visit us at parentsleague.org.